Welcome to Bakes and Blenders. Today we're going to make a cardamom coffee braid and shape it into this phenomenal wreath. The bread is soft and sweet and flavored with just a dash of cardamom. It is the perfect loaf to make as the weather starts to cool down. Start by scalding your milk and water in a saucepan. Get it nice and hot but not boiling. Then pour it into the bowl of your stand mixer, and you want to wait until the temperature comes down to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit before you start adding the rest of your ingredients. Now you can add your eggs, sugar, butter, yeast, dough enhancer if you're using it, cardamom, flour, and salt. You always want to add your salt last into the side of the bowl so it does not come into direct contact with your yeast. It would kill it, and that would be sad and bad. With the dough hook attachment, you're going to start it on low just to try and bring all the ingredients together. Once it's getting mostly combined, you can slowly increase your speed up to a medium speed. You're going to knead the dough in your stand mixer for about 5 to 8 minutes. After about 5 minutes, if your dough is still looking very sticky and is not cleaning the sides of the bowl, go ahead and add an extra spoonful or two of flour. You want to scrape the bowl down so you get everything off the sides. You add that little bit of extra flour and then begin mixing again. Start on slow to combine, bump it back up to medium for just a few more minutes until it's incorporated. You'll find the recipes used in this video in the description box below. I always like to finish kneading my doughs by hand so you can really get a good feel of it. So after we've done about 5 to 8 minutes in the stand mixer, go ahead and turn your dough out onto a very lightly floured surface and knead for just a few more minutes until your dough comes together. It should be very soft and very supple. You don't want to add too much flour. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos. Now that you're done kneading, you can lightly oil your mixing bowl or a separate clean bowl. Place the dough in there upside down and then spin it right side up so it has a nice thin covering of oil. Cover that bowl with some cling wrap and set it aside to rise until it is about doubled in size. This usually takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Turn your big puffy mound of dough out onto a rolling mat and press down to punch out that extra gas. Now what we need to do is divide our dough into 3 equal amounts. In order for your wreath to bake evenly, you really want to make sure they're as close to equal as possible, so I suggest using an electric scale. You can find links to the products that I've used in the description box below this video. Each of my 3 portions weighed about 13 to 14 ounces. Shape them into nice balls and cover them with some cling wrap and set them aside to rest for just a couple of minutes to relax the gluten before we start to roll and shape the dough. We're going to work with 1 ball of dough at a time, so set the other 2 aside and make sure they're covered so they don't dry out. Take that first ball of dough and we're going to begin to squeeze and shape it into a rough log. Now as you do this, you're going to find pockets of gas and air bubbles in your dough. Make sure to squeeze those out whenever you come across them. Once you have a nice rough log shape going on, use your hands to rock and roll that log until it begins to get longer and longer. You want to shoot for at least 21 inches. Remember, as you work it, it is going to shrink back up again as that gluten pulls itself back together when you set it aside. So when in doubt, just go a little bit longer. You can set that rope of dough aside. I'm putting it onto my silicone baking mat and repeat this process with the other 2 balls of dough. Lie all 3 of your strands lengthwise on the baking mat. lightly pinch them together at one end. Now it's time to braid. As you lift one strand and overlap the other strand, that strand that you overlapped is now going to overlap the third strand. It's a little weird to explain, but if you've ever braided hair, or if you just watch this video closely, you'll see that braiding is actually fairly simple. I prefer to do this on the silicone baking mat that I'm going to be baking the wreath on. That way I don't have to worry about moving that braid or that wreath too much. Bring the two ends of your braid together to form a circle or a wreath. Now you need to connect those loose ends of your braid to maintain that braid-like woven pattern throughout your entire wreath. Lightly brush your cardamom coffee braid with an egg wash and then sprinkle as liberally as you would like with some coarse sugar. I am using sparkling sugar that you'd find in the sprinkle aisle. You could use Swedish pearl sugar. You do not want to use regular granulated sugar, just any large chunky sugar should be fine. You can find links to the products that I've used in the description box below this video. Go ahead and lightly cover your dough and let it proof for about 20 to 30 minutes. While you do that, get your oven preheating right now so it's nice and hot when it's time to throw the bread into the oven. Bake until golden brown and the internal temperature hits 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Cool on a baking sheet for about 15 minutes, then transfer to a rack to finish cooling completely. Once cool, you can slice your cardamom coffee braid into wedges or just massive slices. Either way, they taste great. This bread is soft, sweet, has a hint of spice with that cardamom. It is the perfect loaf to make on a lazy day at home. I hope you get to try this recipe soon. And if you liked it, leave a comment and let me know what you thought. I'll see you in the next video. Happy baking!